Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about tightening your prose in your writing. Let's start out with a definition of this. Simply put, it means to get rid of all the words that don't belong. It doesn't mean you can skimp on description or oversimplify the way you write. It means to get rid of the words that have no reason to be there. So tightening your prose means to eliminate unnecessary words from your writing. Let's start out with some examples. If you look at this example, it says, "It goes without saying that we are acquainted with your policy on filing tax returns, and we have every intention of complying with the regulations that you have mentioned." Or, "We intend to comply with the tax return regulations you have mentioned." Notice that the same message gets across in the second sentence without sacrificing any meaning. In addition, the sentence is easier to understand and therefore more powerful. Let's look at the second example. "After booking a ticket to Dallas from a travel agent, I packed my bags and arranged for a taxi to the airport. Once there, I checked in, went through security, and was ready to board. But problems beyond my control led to a 3-hour delay before takeoff." Now the second sentence says, "My flight to Dallas was delayed for 3 hours." You might say, there's a lot of details missing from that second sentence. But what kind of details are they? You have to give readers credit that they will know if you're going on a flight that you booked a ticket, that you packed bags, that you got a ride to the airport, that you went through security and boarded the plane. Those details are implied just by the fact you're going on a flight, and they don't need to be there. A better detail to include would be to write about why the flight was delayed for 3 hours. Was there an accident on the runway? Was there something wrong with the plane? This is the kind of detail that would be more interesting to readers. We can also eliminate unnecessary determiners and modifiers from our writing. Writers clog up prose with extra words that modify the meaning of a noun, but don't actually add to the meaning of the sentence. Some examples are kind of, sort of, really, basically, actually. You can see an example here. It says, "For all intents and purposes, American industrial productivity generally depends on certain factors that are really more psychological in kind than of any given technological aspect." Versus the concise sentence, which says, "American industrial productivity depends more on psychological than on technological factors." Again, we have the same message getting across. It's much easier to understand, and it's more powerful. We also want to omit redundant pairs. Past memories. We know that memories are in the past. True facts. We know that facts are true. Terrible tragedies. We know that tragedies are terrible. So those kind of repetitive word groupings we do not want to use. We also want to use specific concrete language. So the way you write can really be impactful to readers. You can tell something, as in this example, "He showed satisfaction as he took possession of his well-earned reward." Or you can show something. "He grinned as he pocketed the coin." We've got the same message, it's more concise, and it gives us a better image. This is something to consider when you're writing certain scenes. Showing versus telling can often be more powerful and sometimes more concise. We also want to usually avoid passive voice. Active voice is when the subject is doing the action. Steve loves Amy. Steve's the subject, and he's doing the action. In passive voice, it would be Amy is loved by Steve. Now there are certain instances where using passive voice is needed in writing, but usually we want to stick with active voice, and this makes our sentences more powerful and usually more concise as well. Here are two words, just and could, that often appear in writing, and this is because we use just and could in our everyday speech quite a bit, but we can eliminate it from our writing. So here's an example. Tom could feel his blood boiling versus Tom felt his blood boil. The second is a more powerful sentence, and it's also shorter. Here's another type of redundant category. Let's look at this example. During that time period, many car buyers preferred cars that were pink in color and shiny in appearance. Again, we know that pink is a color and shiny is a type of appearance. So instead we would say, during that period, many car buyers preferred pink, shiny cars. Also, we don't need stage direction. So it says characters can brush hair out of their faces, slap people, etc. without the writer having to tell us they reached out an arm or hand to do so. So when we're describing scenes, remember that you don't always have to describe every movement. You can just get to the action. As far as adverbs go, we can also become repetitive here. So shouting loudly, people are loud when they shout. So that is an unnecessary adverb. The same is true with whispering quietly. We know that whispers are quiet. So a better descriptor would be whispering seductively. That adds something to the description that wasn't there before. And similes and metaphors. Similes and metaphors are great in our writing, and we do want to use these, but we want to use them sparingly. If we overuse them, they can clutter up our writing and make writers feel overwhelmed. So choose your similes and metaphors wisely. Another thing we can do is to combine ideas to make our sentences flow. So instead of writing a separate sentence for each action that happens, which can often make writing choppy, we can combine ideas to make our writing flow more smoothly and also to tighten up our words. Now, Strunk and White wrote a book called The Elements of Style, and they talked about qualifiers like hopefully, practically, basically, and said that they could really weaken your sentences. In fact, they said these are the leeches that infest the pond of prose, sucking the blood of words. So watch out for those kind of qualifiers and eliminate them from your writing. It can be time-consuming to tighten your prose because it really means going sentence by sentence and examining to see where words can be eliminated. But ultimately, it's important to pay attention to your sentence construction because it's going to keep readers more focused and entertained. It's going to prevent them from losing interest in your work, and it's going to make your writing more powerful. So for review, tightening your prose means to eliminate unnecessary words that don't contribute to meaning from your writing. Instead, you want to use specific, concrete language, eliminate redundant or obvious explanations, and combine ideas to make sentences flow. Tightening your prose makes your sentences more powerful and keeps readers from losing interest in reading your work, so take the time to examine your sentences. I hope this helps you to make your writing more powerful, and as always, if you have any questions, please ask me.